What's going on, you guys and girls? So, we are officially starting our 7th week of the Master Key System. We're on part 7. We've been reading each part 1 week at a time, every Sunday, and then every day reading over the whole chapter. And last week, we went over the most wonderful piece of mechanism which had ever been created for you in manifesting, whether it's health, success, wellness, I know I said health, but wellness, prosperity, anything in particular that you desire, to manifesting in the material world and making it a visible reality. And this mechanism is your brain. And the brain is an embryonic world full of billions and billions of mental workers known as brain cells. And these cells literally take form and shape and feed off of the thoughts that you feed them. The better quality your thoughts are, the better food you're feeding these brain cells, which in turn are allowing it to cultivate and bring about more quality thoughts into your life. And we've learned that thoughts manifest themselves into actions. And what you think about the most, what you're thinking about this particular moment in time, whatever you're putting your attention and concentration on, entirely moves this piece of equipment, this body, into that direction of which you please, or which you are thinking about moving into. And we learned in part 4 that we are all spiritual beings. We've always, when you ask and look for something, you always figure that out, but then other things come into your life to affirm it, that yes, that is how it is. So always believe in yourself, always believe in your ideas, always believe in the things that come to you and that feels right to you, because if it feels right, chances are that it is right. And if you need help and guidance in affirming that, hey, maybe I need something to show me that it is absolutely true, you run into things like this that definitely say that you're not the only one that was thinking along those lines or was looking for those specific answers. So, the brain of man, we learned in human anatomy that your body itself functions off of 3 mechanisms. There's the nervous system, which is the brain and spinal cord, which is the organ that we've learned is the organ of the conscious part of your mind. And then there is the muscular system, and then the skeletal system. Now, the skeletal system gives your body its framework. It is what gives your body its frame. I can't really find any other word for it right now. And the muscle system is a system that moves the skeleton around in the body. And then the nervous system is the system that controls the muscular system. So, and it does it through electricity. Your brain sends a electrical signal all the way down your spinal cord, and then it travels to whatever, say you want to move your phalanges or your finger. Your brain sends an electrical signal all the way down your spinal cord to they're called motor units. Motor unit inside of your hand, and then this motor unit shocks the muscle, and that's what causes the muscle to contract the skeleton, which in turn allows you to move things in the material world. And we learned that whatever it is you want to secure for yourself, whatever thoughts you are harboring, this mechanism, this brain of yours literally develops and shapes itself into the mold of who you are being. What you are thinking, what you constantly think about is what your brain is molding into, and you are building those neural pathways. And then they eventually become your habitual way of thinking, and that in turn will become your character. And also he went over how the brain can be likened to its cells, the brain cells, could be likened to like batteries, and the white matter within the brain, which are the grooves, are the channels to where these batteries can send electricity through the body and eventually cause whatever you're thinking about to manifest in the world. But if you take action in making that in working towards making it a reality, because there is the mind and there is the body. The mind controls the body. They're completely, I don't want to say they're completely separate things, because they're both entwined into one, but in a way they're completely separate things. Your body doesn't, you don't need to consciously tell your digestive system to eat or to digest its food. It does it by itself. It has its own built-in intelligent system, which they call the subconscious mind in here. And the subconscious mind, the organs of the subconscious, is the sympathetic nervous system, and that is found in the solar plexus. And we learned that in my anatomy class, where we went over the nervous system, that the sympathetic nervous system is actually the system, like let's say you touch a hot object and immediately you pull it off. The sympathetic nervous system is a system that makes you, that responds first. It goes through your hand, and then it is picked up by the sympathetic, that you instinctively pull your hand off, and then you start to think about, wow, like that was hot. Because first it travels through the sympathetic nervous system before, and then it travels up to the brain to where you're consciously interpreting it. It happens by itself. I thought that was very interesting, and when I read that part, I was like, wow, like this thing that we have in control over is amazing. This thing that is our tool is amazing. And this spirit, this self-awareness that we are, is just magic. And everything is energy. We live in a fathomless sea of spiritual energy, and this energy is intelligent. It's conscious. It thinks. It has within it the source of everything that was ever thought of, everything that had ever happened. Literally everything is stored within this universal intelligence, and they call it the universal mind. I personally like to call it the universal spiritual energy, because it is the source from which all things have proceeded. And we also learned that the power of attention, how concentration is by far the most powerful thing an individual can accomplish for himself personally. When you're able to concentrate on a specific thing for any length of time, that is definitely the mark of a trained mind. And there are several ways which you could cultivate the power of your attention. The best way to do it is through meditation, while speaking the mantras, because you have 7 energy centers of your body. It's your chakra systems. It's Muladhara, Svadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Visuddha, which is the throat. Okay, Manipura. I'm sorry. Let me start over. Muladhara is the root chakra, which grounds you to the physical body, and then the Svadhisthana is the sacral chakra, which is responsible for your creativity. And then there's the Manipura, which is your willpower, which allows you to, when this chakra is open, you move into, gives you the ability to move forward in your life fearlessly. And then there's Anahata, which is the heart chakra, which is all the wellspring of love and compassion. And then there's Visuddha, which is the throat chakra, which gives you the power to speak. Your words have power, and when you speak, you're literally giving form and shape to not only your thoughts, but you're also influencing your mind a lot stronger, because you're allowing it to, not only are you thinking it, but you're allowing your physical being to hear it, and that deepens the grooves to what you are picking up on in your mind, and your brain corresponds by molding it into that specific shape or pattern, if you will. And then there's Ajna, which is your third eye chakra, which allows you to see, which I like to call Ajna the mind, because if we're just self-awareness, if we're just spiritual beings, and we're just energy, and we have a mind, because when we think, that sets mind in motion. It's as spirit, we are just essentially static energy. We simply are. And when we think, we produce mind, because we move into a dynamic state of energy, an active state. And that's how I like to see it. And to me that makes a lot more sense. It's everything you learn is great to learn from everyone, but always form your own personal conclusions. And then the last one, which is the Sahasrara, which doesn't even lie within the body. It is supposed to rest on top of the crown of your head, and that is what's supposed to be responsible for your awareness. Because as spirit, we are nothing but self-awareness, self-aware unit of spiritual energy. And in our real state of being, we are a body of light, in control of this mechanism known as man, and so those are the 7 chakra systems, and that's the way I personally go to helping me in my concentration. It's not only sitting in the meditation position, it helps you secure control over your physical being by sitting there, but it also allows you to get complete control over ajna, which is your mind, over ajna, because not only do you have to focus on sitting upright, but at the same time you're focusing on repeating the mantras and listening to the words, and then at the same time focusing on your breathing, while having to, if you're in an environment that's a little quiet, trying to stay within yourself. It could get pretty tough at times, but it's definitely the way to the road to self-mastery. If you want to become the master of yourself, meditation is definitely the key way to go. And in here, he gives a very good way of also practicing the power of cultivating your concentration, which is bringing a photograph with you and looking at the photograph for at least 10 minutes, noting every single detail, the way the hair is arranged, the way the eyes are, the way the smile is, whatever clothes they're wearing, if they're wearing any jewelry, if they're any watches, the type of shoes they wear, the clothes that they are wearing, noting every single detail, and then closing your eyes and trying to picture it in your mind's eye, trying to visualize it without having to specifically look at it. And that is one of the other best ways to cultivating the power of your concentration, because excuse me, I got the hiccups. Because you're literally picturing something, or you're taking something that's physical in the material realm, then you're learning about it and studying it, and then taking it in from the outside and visualizing it on the inside. Meditation helps you start on the inside first, and then moving it towards the outside. And that's basically the whole chapter 6 in a nutshell, what we learned last week and throughout the whole entire week. And this mechanism which we have is literally the greatest piece that we could, be in store with, to be given to, because it is this thing that controls, the voluntary movements of the muscular system. Because there's a conscious part, which is the brain and organs, then there's a subconscious part, which is the inside. They say that the heart is the subconscious mind, and that makes a lot of sense, because the heart is the master organ of the body. Without this heart, this thing wouldn't even exist. And there's the voluntary muscle systems within the body, which is the skeletal system, which your brain is in control of moving the skeletal, or the musculoskeletal muscles, So you have 3 muscle types. There's the skeletal muscles, the cardiac muscles, and the smooth muscles. The skeletal muscles are the only muscles that are under the control of your conscious part of your mind. And then the cardiac and smooth muscles are the muscles that are in control of the subconscious mind. They deal with things internally by themselves. You have no control over their voluntary process. Like we were going over the the digestive system earlier. You don't have to consciously think of, digesting your food. It does it by itself. And with all that being said, we're finally starting part 7, week 7. Our a month and a half in. See what this part has in store for us. So, introduction. Through all the ages, man has believed in an invisible power, through which and by which all things have been created and are continually being recreated. We may personalize this power and call it God, or we may think of it as an essence or spirit which permeates all things, but in either case the effect is the same. So far as the individual is concerned, the objective, the physical, the visible, is the personal, and which can be cognized by the senses. It consists of body, brain, and nerves. The subjective is the spiritual, the invisible, the impersonal. The personal is conscious because it is a personal entity. The impersonal, being the same in kind and quality as all other beings, is not conscious of itself and has therefore been termed the subconscious. The personal or conscious has the power of will and choice, and can therefore exercise discrimination in the selection of methods whereby to bring about the solution of difficulties. The impersonal or spiritual, being a part or one with the source and origin of all life, can necessarily exercise no such choice, but, on the contrary, it has infinite resources at its command. It can and does bring about results by methods concerning which the human or individual mind can have no possible conception. You will therefore see that it is your privilege to depend upon the human will with all its limitations and misconceptions, or you may utilize the potentialities of infinity by making use of the subconscious mind. Here, then, is the scientific explanation of the wonderful power which has been put within your control, if you but understand, appreciate, and recognize it. One method of consciously utilizing this omnipotent power is outlined in Part 7. And that was the introduction. Now we're starting with the real deal. Visualization is the process of making mental images, and the image is the mold or model, which will serve as a pattern from which your future will emerge. Make the pattern clear and make it beautiful. Do not be afraid. Make it grand. Remember that no limitation can be placed upon you by anyone but yourself. You are not limited as to cost or material. Draw on the infinite for your supply. Construct it in your imagination. It will have to be there before it can ever appear anywhere else. Make the image clear and clean-cut. Hold it firmly in the mind, and you will gradually and constantly bring the things nearer to you. You can be what you will to be. This is another psychological fact which is well known, but unfortunately, reading about it will not bring about any results which you may have in mind. It will not even help you to form the mental image, much less bring it into manifestation. Work is necessary. Labor, hard mental labor, the kind of effort which so few are willing to put forth. The first step is idealization. It is likewise the most important step, because it is the plan on which you are going to build. It must be solid. It must be permanent. The architect, when he plans a 30-story building, has every line and detail pictured in advance. The engineer, when he spans a chasm, first ascertains the strength requirements of 1,000,000 separate parts. They see the end before a single step is taken. So you are to picture in your mind what you want. You are sowing the seed, but before sowing any seed, you want to know what the harvest is to be. This is idealization. If you are not sure, return to the chair daily until the picture becomes plain. It will gradually unfold. First, the general plan will be dim, but it will take shape. The outline will take form, then the details, and you will gradually develop the power by which you will be enabled to formulate plans which will eventually materialize in the objective world. You will come to know what the future holds for you. Then comes a process of visualization. You must see the picture more and more complete. See the detail and as the details begin to unfold, the ways and meanings for bringing it into manifestation will develop. One thing will lead to another. Thought will lead to actions. Actions will develop methods. Methods will develop friends, and friends will bring about circumstances. And finally, the third step, or materialization, will have been accomplished. We all recognize the universe must have been thought into shape before it could ever have become a material fact. And if we are willing to follow the lines of the great architect of the universe, we shall find our thoughts taking form, just as the universe took concrete form. It is the same mind operating through the individual. There is no difference in kind or quality. The only difference is one of degree. The architect visualizes his building. He sees it as he wishes it to be. His thoughts become a plastic mold from which the building will eventually emerge, a high one or a low one, a beautiful one or a plain one. His vision takes form on paper, and eventually the necessary material is utilized and the building stands complete. The inventor visualizes his ideas in exactly the same manner. For instance, Nikola Tesla, he was the giant intellect, one of the greatest inventors of all the ages. The man who has brought forth the most amazing realities always visualizes his inventions before attempting to work them out. He did not rush to embody them in form and then spend his time in correcting defects. Having first built up the idea in his imagination, he held it there as a mental picture, to be reconstructed and improved by his thought. In this way, he writes the electrical experimenter, I am enabled to rapidly develop and perfect a conception without touching anything. When I have gone so far as to embody in the invention every possible improvement I can think of, and see no fault anywhere, I put into concrete the product of my brain. Invariably, my device works as I conceived it should. In 20 years, there has not been a single exception. Now that was a saying by Nikola Tesla himself. If you can conscientiously follow these directions, you will develop faith, the kind of faith that is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You will develop confidence, the power of confidence that leads to endurance and courage. You will develop the power of concentration, which will enable you to exclude all thoughts except the ones which are associated with your purpose. The law is that thought will manifest in form, and only one who knows how to be the divine thinker of his own thoughts can ever take a master's place and speak with authority. Clearness and accuracy are obtained only by repeatedly having the image in mind. Each repeated action renders the image more clear and accurate than the preceding, and in proportion to the clearness and accuracy of the image will the outward manifestation be. You must build it firmly and securely in your mental world, the world within, before it can take form in the world without, and you can build nothing of value, even in the mental world, unless you have a proper material. When you have the material, you can build anything you wish, but make sure of your material. You cannot make broadcloth from shoddy. This material will be brought out by millions of silent mental workers, and fashioned in the form of the image which you have in mind. Think of it. You have over 5 million of these mental workers, ready, and in active use. Brain cells, they are called. Besides this, there is another reserve force of at least an equal number, ready to be called into action by the slightest need. Your power to think, then, is almost unlimited, and this means that your power to create the kind of material which is necessary to build for yourself any kind of environment which you desire is practically unlimited. In addition to these millions of mental workers, you have billions of mental workers in the body, every one of which is endowed with sufficient intelligence to understand and act upon any message or suggestion given. These cells are all busy creating and recreating the body, but in addition to this, they are endowed with psychic activity, whereby they can attract to themselves the substance necessary for perfect development. They do this by the same law and in the same manner, that every form of life attracts to itself the necessary material for growth. The oak, the rose, the lily, all require certain material for the most perfect expression, and they secure it by silent demand. The law of attraction, the most certain way for you to secure what you require for the most complete development. Make the mental image, make it clear, distinct, perfect, and hold it firmly. The ways and means will develop, supply will follow the demand, and you will be led to do the right thing, at the right time, and in the right way. Earnest desire will bring about confident expectations, and this in turn must be reinforced by firm demand. These three cannot fail to bring about attainment, because the earnest desire is the feeling, the confident expectation is the thought, and the firm demand is the will. And as we have seen, feeling gives vitality to thought, and the will holds it steadily until the law of growth brings it into manifestation. Wow, that was a nice wow. I want to read that again. Earnest desire will bring about confident expectations, and this in turn must be reinforced by firm demand. These three cannot fail to bring about attainment, because the earnest desire is the feeling, the confident expectation is the thought, and the firm demand is the will. And as we have seen, feeling gives vitality to thought, and the will holds it steadily until the law of growth brings it into manifestation. Is it not wonderful that man has such tremendous power within himself, such transcendental faculties concerning which he had no conception? Is it not strange that we have always been taught to look for strength and power without? We have been taught to look everywhere but within, and whenever this power manifested in our lives, we are told that it was something supernatural. There are many who have come to an understanding of this wonderful power, and who make serious and conscientious efforts to realize health, power, and other conditions, and seem to fail. They do not seem to bring the law into operation. The difficulty in nearly every case is that they are dealing with externals. They want money, power, health, and abundance, but they fail to realize that these are effects and can come only when that cause is found. Please excuse the background noise if you could hear it. My nephew, my mom, and my sister-in-law are all playing around with all his toys that he got for Christmas, and we're doing our best to stay focused, so try to stay focused with me. Those who will give no attention to the world without will seek only to ascertain the truth, will look only for wisdom, will find that this wisdom will unfold and disclose the source of all power, that it will manifest its thought and purpose, which will create the external conditions desired. This truth will find expression in noble purpose and courageous action. Create ideals only, give no thought to external conditions. Make the world within beautiful and opulent, and the world without will express and manifest the conditions which will you have within. Wow, these two sentences, they came at the perfect time. Give no thought to external conditions. Make the world within beautiful and opulent, and the world without will express and manifest the conditions which you have within. You will have come into a realization of your power to create ideals, and these ideals will be projected into the world of effect. For instance, a man is in debt. He will continually be thinking about the debt, concentrating on it, and as thoughts are causes, the result is that he is not only fastening the debts closer to him, but actually creates more debt. He is putting the great law of attraction into operation, with the usual and inevitable result. Loss leads to greater loss. What then is the correct principle? Concentrate on the things you want, not on the things you don't want. Think of abundance. Idealize the methods and plans for putting the law of abundance into operation. Visualize the condition which the law of abundance creates. This will result in manifestation. If the law operates perfectly to bring about poverty, lack, and every form of limitation for those who are continually entertaining thoughts of lack and fear, it will operate with the same certainty to bring about conditions of abundance and opulence for those who entertain thoughts of courage and power. This is a difficult problem for many. We are too anxious. We manifest anxiety, fear, distress. We want to do something. We want to help. We are like a child who has just planted a seed and every 15 minutes goes and stirs up the earth to see if it is growing. Of course, under such conditions or circumstances, the seed will never germinate, and yet this is exactly what many of us do in the mental world. We must plant the seed and leave it undisturbed. This does not mean that we are to sit down and do nothing. By all means, we will do more and better work than we have ever done before. New channels will constantly be provided. New doors will open. All that is necessary is to have an open mind and be ready to act when the time comes. Thought force is the most powerful means of obtaining knowledge, and if concentrated on any subject will solve the problem. Nothing is beyond the power of human comprehension, but in order to harness thought force and make it do your bidding, work is required. Remember that thought is the fire that creates the steam that turns the wheel of fortune, upon which your experience depend. Ask yourself a few questions and then reverently await the response. Do you not know and then feel the self with you? Do you assert the self or do you follow the majority? Remember that majorities are always led, they never lead. It was the majority that fought tooth and nail against the steam engine, the power loom, and every other advance or improvement ever suggested. For your exercise this week, visualize your friend. See him exactly as you last saw him. See the room, the furniture, recall the conversation. Now see his face, see it distinctly. Now talk to him about some subject of mutual interest. See his expression change, watch him smile. Can you do this? All right, you can. Then arouse his interest. Tell him a story of adventure. See his eyes light up with the spirit of fun or excitement. Can you do all of this? If so, your imagination is good and you are making excellent progress. Now, study questions and answers of part 7. Question number 1. What is visualization? The process of making mental pictures. What is the result of this method of thought? By holding the image or picture it in the mind, we can gradually but surely bring the thing nearer to us. We can be what we will to be. 3. What is idealization? It is a process of visualizing or idealizing the plans which will eventually materialize in our objective world. 4. Why are clearness and accuracy necessary? Because seeing creates feeling, and feeling creates being. First the mental, then the emotional, then the unlimited possibilities of achievement. How are they obtained? Each repeated action renders the image more accurate than the former one. 6. How is the material for the construction of your mental image secured? By millions of mental workers, brain cells they are called. How is the necessary? 7. How are the necessary conditions for bringing about the materialization of your ideal in the objective world secured? By the law of attraction, the natural law by which all conditions and experiences are brought about. Number 8. What 3 steps are necessary in order to bring this law into operation? Earnest desire, confident expectation, and firm demand. Now remember, it said earnest desire is the feeling, confident expectation is the thought, and earnest demand or firm demand is the will. Number 9. Why do so many fail? Because they concentrate on loss, disease, and disaster. The law is operating perfectly. The things they fear are coming upon them. And last but not least, number 10. What is the alternative? Concentrate on the ideals which you desire to see manifested in your life. Now that is the end of part 7, week 7. We are just starting our week. Now for the next 7 days we are going to be reading this part only and making sure we are getting the most out of it before we move on. Because work on our visualizations, and we're going to work on our earnest desires, our feelings. We're going to work on more controlling our own thoughts, and also the will to bring about what we desire to pass. And with that being said, I want to end this video by saying that I said I was going to do this. I'm not going to lie, sometimes I don't feel like doing it, but I said that I'm going to do it, and I am taking the initiative of making this happen, for not only for me, for myself, but for those around me, and also for you guys, so you can see my progress. Because I told you in the first week, I'm doing this so you can see my progress. Whether at times I feel like I'm making progress or not, I know that I am, because every day we are taking ourselves one step forward. And every day we are learning. We learn something new every day, everyone does. But this is the road that we took to learning something new about ourselves, where we came from, how we work. And with all that being said, if you made it to the end of this video with me, I want to thank you. And comment, subscribe, and share. And I'll be seeing you next week for Chapter 8, Part 8, starting in our second month. But until then, we have the next 7 days to get this part down. So, all that's being said, I'll see you on the other side of the galaxy.